Today I'm going to discuss Richard Kuklinski and his claims of his connection with the Gambino family, specifically Roy DeMeo. Richard Kuklinski is a name most people are familiar with. He's conducted interviews, 2 books were written about his life, as well as the movie The Iceman. According to Kuklinski, he's killed over 200 people by means of handguns, shotguns, crossbows, knives, etc., and at times poison. Also by his claim, he received the nickname the Iceman for a method he used where he placed victims in freezers only to drop the bodies off at a later date in order to confuse law enforcement as to the correct time of death. There's no doubt Kuklinski killed people, but most of his claims are more than questionable. It became evident the more Kuklinski spoke, the more he inflated the number of people he killed and the murders he was involved in, which strongly demonstrates all the signs of a bullshitter. Prior to filming this, I posted a question in the community section asking viewers their opinion of Kuklinski, and the overwhelming majority believed he was full of shit. So let's discuss some of the facts. I'm not going to get into his personal background because it's irrelevant to this discussion. Richard Kuklinski's world came crashing in on December 17, 1986, when he was arrested near his home in New Jersey, the result of a 6-year investigation into 5 murders he committed spanning from 1980 to 1983. He was convicted for 2 of the murders in 1988, in which he received 2 life sentences, and in 2003, he received an additional 30 years after confessing to another murder. During an interview, Kuklinski would refer to Roy DeMeo as his mentor. At the time, he said he was working for a Gambino-controlled company pirating pornographic films, a job he acquired, according to him, through a connection of DeMeo, which is quite possible, taking into account that the Gambino family had guys like Robert DiBernardo, whose involvement in the pornography industry can be traced back to the 1960s. Kuklinski stated that he got himself into a problem with DeMeo regarding a loan, which resulted in him receiving a beating. Again, that's possible, since DeMeo was definitely loan sharking money back then. According to Kuklinski, following the beating, DeMeo took a liking to him and began using him as an enforcer due to his size. He was 6'5" and 300 pounds. He also claimed that DeMeo put him to a test to see if he would kill for him. He's not specific with dates, but according to him, DeMeo asked him if he could kill someone, and he responded with, "I think I can." Supposedly, the first murder he committed was in 1980, so keep that in mind. Again, according to Kuklinski, DeMeo pointed out a random guy that was walking his dog and told him to go kill the guy. And naturally, Kuklinski said he shot the guy in the head. If this took place prior to 1980, that killing would be his first murder. If it took place after 1980, it obviously would be his second. If that were the case, why would he answer DeMeo with, "I think I can"? It makes no sense. According to Kuklinski, DeMeo hired him to take part in the hit on Carmine Galante. He even places himself in Joe and Mary's restaurant on July 12, 1979, and added that he told DeMeo to make sure the other members of the hit team knew that he was on the team. Kuklinski claimed he personally shot Galante with 2 357s, according to reports. The weapons used on that day were a shotgun or shotguns and 30 and 38 calibers. Granted, you can fire a 38 round from a 357. However, why would you want to use such smaller caliber bullets for that kind of hit? Over and above that, during the commission trial, the Galante hit was part of the case, and Kuklinski's name was never mentioned, nor was he mentioned by Joe Massino or Sal Vitale. Going back 5 years, to July 30th, 1975, Kuklinski said it was he who killed Jimmy Hoffa by thrusting a knife into his brain. Hoffa's body was then placed in a steel drum, lit on fire, and buried in a junkyard. Not only has Hoffa's remains never been found, but again, that murder would place his first murder at 1975, not 1980. According to Kuklinski, John Gotti hired him to kidnap and kill John Favara, who accidentally ran over 12-year-old Frank Gotti in March of 1980. Favara disappeared, and his remains also has never been found. Kuklinski also claimed that he killed NYPD detective Peter Calabro in 1980. Calabro was killed when someone stepped in front of the road and in front of his car in New Jersey and hit him with 2 shotgun blasts. Kuklinski ultimately pled guilty to that murder after speaking about it during an interview in 2001. Most people feel the mob doesn't need to get outsiders to do their dirty work, and this is somewhat correct. Nonetheless, in the past, and absolutely in the present, the mob has outsourced other people. Some good examples of that in the past are when the Gambinos in particular used the Westies on hits. The Genovese family used Joe Sullivan as well. Do I think it's possible Kuklinski crossed paths with Roy DeMeo? Yes, they very well could have. But keep in mind, DeMeo had a crew of extremely capable guys around him and was considered capable himself. So why would DeMeo bring in or have to depend on an outsider? And it didn't matter if Kuklinski was 7'2". Outsiders are considered unpredictable, and because you don't know them, untrustworthy. We're not just talking about crimes, we're talking about murders. Roy DeMeo was around long enough not to trust a guy like Kuklinski with his freedom. The majority of Kuklinski's claims don't add up. I remember watching a little bit of an interview he did, and I didn't watch the entire episode. But some of the claims I mentioned today, I learned through research for this video. Killing Hoffa, just like Frank Sheeran said he did, is a joke. Yet they made movies about both these guys. What I do remember about the interview I watched was how he enjoyed shocking people by what he was saying. And I think he did the same thing by claiming responsibility for murders he knew he had no part of. Just for the fact that he involved himself in high-profile mob murders tells us something about his character. Kuklinski definitely read newspapers and listened to the news and was aware of the publicity and coverage that mob murders received. With that said, I believe he had a fascination with the mob. Being that he was in prison for life and had several authors visit him and networks looking to interview him, he felt he would take the opportunity and beef up his street resume, similar to Stolen Valor. And no offense to our military people, as one life is considered honorable and the other anything but. Kuklinski knew he could never be part of the mob, and this was his way to place his name in mob history. He obviously studied the details. For example, in the Castellano hit, he claims he wore a trench coat and a fur hat, and even said he had a walkie-talkie, which allegedly the shooters were all carrying. For the Galante hit, he places himself inside the restaurant and ordered a meatball hero. He claims he spotted the two shooters walk in and knew it was them. Let me just ask the viewers something. Do you think that the ski mask gave away that they were the shooters? But Kuklinski never mentioned ski mask. Let me quickly mention the super thanks option found in the 3-dot dropdown underneath the video for anyone who'd like to show appreciation for videos like this. Again, on the day of the Galante hit, according to Kuklinski, he went straight to the back patio and empties 2 pistols into Galante, but adds, when he finished, one of the shooters blasts Galante with a shotgun. Obviously, he had to add that, knowing that Galante was blasted with a shotgun. Prior to telling this tale, or fantasy, during an interview, Kuklinski stated that he preferred smaller caliber weapons like a .22 because the bullets would ricochet with the headshot. For the record, a .357 is by no means a small caliber. Part of the blame should fall on the authors. Simple facts checking would have easily punched holes in Kuklinski's claims. One of the things Kuklinski volunteered was his ability to con people, which should have been a red flag for any author. I'll end this with a study conducted by Eastern Kentucky University student Jennifer Portman, who based the thesis after viewing hours of Kuklinski's interviews. In her final conclusion, she diagnosed Kuklinski as a psychopath due to his exhibiting almost every core trait associated with psychopathy. Let me add, one of the hallmarks of a psychopath is excessive lying.